with no one here to clean me up. With someone to show me some love and tell me that I am good enough. I poured out all that's filled me up, still I'm tossed away like a plastic cup. And here I'm trying once again, like litter trapped inside the wind, still believing I can get a hold of things. Every effort leads to new mistakes, and I crawl back to the same old place. I need someone who can lend a hand and pull me from this garbage can. With someone to show me some love and tell me that I am good enough. I poured out all that's built me up, still I'm tossed away like a plastic cup. With someone to show me some love and tell me that I am good enough. I poured out all that's built me up, still I'm tossed away like a plastic cup. And still I'm tossed away like a plastic cup. In spite of how much it hurts, there's something inside of me, and I know it's life that's just temporary. With someone to show me some love and tell me that I am good enough. I poured out all that's filled me up, still I'm tossed away like a plastic cup. I know you feel like a piece of trash, thrown away and forgotten. Please don't let go, 'cause to me you're a treasure. Well, good evening, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Quincy Kane here, and this is live stream number 208, if I can count correctly. And for this particular stream, we're going to be hanging out. We've got rock and talk, so I'm going to play a few songs for you. I'm going to try to. And we're just going to have some good old conversation, so feel free to join into the conversation. Whatever questions you have, whatever you feel like discussing, just let me know. And today is kind of a special day for me. I'm celebrating the release of an EP that I just put out. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a bit. I'm going to try to perform all the songs from the EP for this evening's stream, but I am getting over some stuff. I was a little under the weather last week, and I'm feeling much better, but I still have a little bit of congestion and things. I haven't really sang out like I am today, so we'll see how things go. Hopefully I'll sound good enough to give a decent performance. But let's catch up with the chat. We've got Jack and Becky here. Good to see you all. We were just talking a little bit. Becky, I do hope that the weather cools down where you're at, and that you'll be feeling better soon, and getting your appetite back and getting your energy back. And Jack, hoping the same for you. Hoping things are going well. Let's see. Becky was asking, how is the weather in Canada? Yep, Jack, how are things there? It's getting pretty hot in the summer, doesn't it? We've been all over the place. It was 28 Celsius with humidity today. Earlier this week, it was 36. So sounds like it's been pretty up and down for you all. Fortunately, my apartment has central air. Well, that's really nice. Here's our highlighted lyric from Becky, Still I'm Tossed Away. And you sound good singing it, so I like how you added the musical notes and really holding out the away.
Heat does not work well with MS. It triggers relapses, I can see. But well, hopefully you'll be able to stay cool and stay at a comfortable temperature for the summer. Thank you for the emojis and the applause and the fire jack. Much appreciated. Most houses in the UK apparently have no AC. My thermometer said it was 40 yesterday. Can't have been that hot, surely. But yes. Well, thank you, Jack. Yep, I would never toss you away like a plastic cup. I appreciate that. Might talk a little bit about this. We'll probably dive into some of these songs again. So, as you two know, we'll start discussing it, but I'm sure others will show up eventually. But I released this EP, and it's a little weird because there isn't necessarily anything new. There's technically one new song on there, and it's not even officially released. If anyone's listened to the EP yet, you'll notice I posted a YouTube video earlier today. Yeah, it's a YouTube video of the full EP, and there's a bonus song on there. There's a sixth song. Does anyone know what the sixth song is? I'm curious if you guys have listened to it yet, or if you guys have heard what the sixth song is. Same thing, if you go to Bandcamp, that sixth song, that bonus song, is available on Bandcamp because the EP is available on Bandcamp, all songs. And here we go. You have another cold, Quincy? Might be the same one. Yeah, believe it or not, I usually don't get sick all that often. Let me think. I don't know if it was the same one or not. I don't know if I'm getting over the same one or if I just have another one and I just keep having to get them at inconvenient times. But yeah, we'll see. It was The Gift Inside of You. That's correct. Yep. So The Gift Inside of You is my newest song, but I haven't released it yet. And I'll talk about that track in a little bit because it's not the official release. It's just kind of a raw recording of that song, just a one-take live performance of that song. But yeah, you guys might know the songs on this EP. It's not like new songs. You guys have heard these before. They're fairly recent songs, as in with the past couple years, but it's not like a whole new thing. So what's the deal with this EP? Well, there were a few things that inspired it. One, I think for the past couple years, like whenever I would write songs for like the year of 2024 or 2025, I kind of had this idea of sort of a compilation video to post at the end of the year showing all the songs I'd released that year and just having one video playing them all back to back. So I kind of already had that in mind. And thank you, Becky, saying I really liked that version of it. I'm glad you did. But I kind of already had in mind of releasing some kind of compilation of songs that I'd already released. You know, just some little batch, some little collection of them. But I wasn't really sure how to go about doing it. And something inspired it at some point. I don't know. I think as I was writing new songs, I was just kind of looking at the songs that I currently had, and all I can say, it's kind of hard. I kind of did it really for myself because writing songs, I've said this before, it's kind of a discovery process. It's more like you discover the song rather than you really set out to make it. But it's not just a discovery process for the song, but kind of for yourself. It's sort of a discovery process for who you are as an artist and what you feel represents you. That's probably the hardest part, is anytime you're making any piece of art, is you're just trying to represent yourself, and you're just trying to make something that feels genuine and authentic to who you are as a person, and that's kind of the goal. Believe it or not, like, that sounds like it'd be easy to do, but I don't know. For some reason, I find that to be difficult. It's hard to find a way to make something and say, like, this is really me, you know, this really represents me and who I am. And, you know, if I wanted to show somebody who I am and what I'm all about, you know, this is the best representation I could give them of me. And that's easier said than done. It's really hard to actually make a song that represents that. And, yeah, and that's kind of been the process of just sort of learning, like, what is my sound and what do I feel like represents me and who I am as a person and where I've come from. And I've been really happy with the past few songs that I've released. They've been some of the best songs I've written, and I kind of feel like I'm starting to find my groove a little bit. You know, I'm not claiming that I mean, to date, I would say these are the best songs I've written. I'm not claiming these are only, I'm not claiming this is the peak and it'll never get better than this. Hopefully I go on to continue writing even better songs. But this is just a time where I feel like I'm writing songs that really tell my story, really represent who I am and what I'm about, and really capture the sound that I'm going for. And there's just something really delightful in doing that. There's something really satisfying about being able to write something and be like, yeah, I can show this to someone and say, hey, this is me, this is who I am. And yeah, I see, Jack, I appreciate that. The Best of Quincy sounds like a winner to me. Well, thank you. And that's a little bit of what it is. The EP, it's not so much the best. I mean, that's one word you could use for it, but I think more accurate would be it's the songs that I feel best represent me. And the songs that I feel, if you listen to that EP, you're going to kind of get an idea of what I'm about, because it's very dynamic. It's got me at my heaviest and it's got me at my most vulnerable and everything in between, And as I looked at those songs, I realized that they really tell a story. They tell a story of my life, but not just the story of my life, but hopefully a story that other people can relate to and connect with. And ultimately a story that perseveres. That's, I think, the most satisfying thing, is that if you really listen to the EP, it has an arc. It's not just 5 random songs that were thrown together. There really is a story being told from the first song all the way through to the last. And I say 5 songs, not including the little bonus song that's at the end there. And so I hope you guys are able to enjoy it. I have to admit, I was a little kind of concerned for some of you guys, because I know you guys have already heard these songs, and I was kind of thinking, man, they're not gonna, this isn't gonna be exciting or anything like that. It's just gonna be, oh, Quincy just repackaged all the songs he already released. But I do hope you might give the EP a listen from beginning to end, front to back, and see what you think. See if you, whenever I make something as an artist, like, you can really just make it and then just hope that other people experience it the way you do, or that they feel what you do. I can't force you guys to feel anything. I can only hope that maybe you do. But you'll have to give it a listen and let me know if you feel that there is a story. When you listen to the songs play back to back in that sequence, that there is a story that takes place. And this EP does take you on a little adventure, a little journey. And I don't know, I just think the songs fit so nicely together. And that's really nice. I have a lot of songs, like older ones, that there's still a part of me in them. Like, I still like those songs, and yes, there's some part of me in them, but they were never quite right. They just never, I don't know, they just weren't quite the sound that I was going for. And I feel like these songs are a much better version of that. Thank you, Becky, saying I listened to it twice earlier. Well, thank you. I'm glad you were able to enjoy it. And I'll be honest, I've been listening to it a lot, and some of it's like second guessing listening. Like when I first finished it, it was really satisfying just listening and hitting replay and playing it again. But then part of me, I'm listening to it like just trying to imagine like what other people are going to think and how they're going to feel, and like is anyone going to connect with this? Is this going to resonate with anyone? So we'll see. But that first song, Plastic Cup, I think that's a good way to start off the album. So I'll just talk about that song real quick. But it's a great song because it's the heaviest song on the album. It really kicks things off, like high energy, great like just intro song for the album. But story-wise, my character in the story, this is kind of the lowest point of life for him. This song is based on a time in my life about 10 years ago when I just felt really alone. It was a time where I felt I had some things to work out in my own life, and everyone seemed like they knew what they were doing. They knew where they were going. Things were working out for them, and I felt like I was kind of stuck in the same old place and having trouble working things out. And yeah, it was just a low time in my life. And I remember, some of you, I've told that story before, but it was actually my best friend was getting married, and we had a great time celebrating him for his bachelor party. And then did not get any sleep that night. It was awful night of sleep. Great night of fun, but awful night of sleep. Next day I was sleep deprived, and I was riding home with a friend, and he was someone who also had a dream for music, and he basically was saying that he was giving up on his dream and getting a real job because it was too late for him. And I was older than him, so I was already thinking like, man, if he feels like it's too late for him, then what does that say about me? And I remember getting home to an empty house, and I just felt numb. I didn't know what was wrong, but something was wrong, and I got in the shower, and I was just kind of standing there as the water was pouring on me, and then I just kind of collapsed and started crying, and I was surprised to hear these words come out of my mouth. I just said, I just want someone to love me and tell me I'm good enough. And that's something, I've come a long way since then. So keep in mind, this was about 10 years ago. And during that time, probably my personal challenge has been about understanding my value as a person. Before I ever fell in love or anything like that, it never even crossed my mind. I never thought I was better than anyone, but I never thought I was lesser than anyone also. I just simply was. I was in the moment, just kind of lived life. It was great. And then once I got my heart broken, and there are songs that talk about that too, but that was kind of the ignition. That was what set it off and kind of set off this struggle of, what's wrong with me? Why am I not good enough? And those would be questions that I would wrestle with for a while. And I appreciate that. That's the thing. Yeah, Becky, I appreciate, we love you. I love you too. And, it's so kind of you to say that, but I do assure you that I've come a long way. Like, I'm not in that low, dark place that I was, but it is something that I wrestled with. It was something that I don't know. It hurt. And I always felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like I either needed to compromise who I truly was to be appreciated by the people around me, or I could be genuinely me and just no one seemed to understand me or get me. And so it felt like a lose-lose anyway. And that's been a really tough thing. And I'll be honest, that's probably one of the biggest kind of things I've had to struggle with in life. And I've come a long way since then. But the reason I wanted to write that song, Plastic Cup, again, you guys are really sweet, but it's not really a song for me anymore. It's not really a song about how I feel anymore. It's about a song of how I once felt, and it's really a song for anyone today who feels that way. If there's someone out there who feels like a plastic cup, who feels like every effort they try just isn't good enough, and they feel like they get tossed away, or they're not appreciated, or no one seems to understand them, that's who the song is for. The song is meant to just be like, hey, I know what that's like. And that's really important to me, because I remember, when I was dealing with some of those low points in my life where I was a bit hurt, I remember hearing songs and the words would just resonate with me. It's amazing how much the songs, like a song with the right words, can just connect with you. I remember that song Good Enough by Evanescence, if you've ever heard that song. And that song would bring me to tears because it was beautiful, and just the words so reflected how I wanted to feel. I just wanted to be good enough. And, I'll never forget how that made me feel. And that's what I hope that I can do the same thing. I hope I can write songs so that if there's somebody who finds themselves in a hard place, that maybe there's a song that I've written that has words that can lift their spirits and kind of encourage them to keep pressing on and help them know that somebody gets them and someone knows what that feels like. And I appreciate that. Becky saying, I needed a bit of cheering up. Seems I listen to you more instead of my old go-to band. Well, I'm glad that you're finding enjoyment in my music, and I hope that, I hope that it at least encourages you. I hope you find the songs encouraging and uplifting. And I hope you recognize that's kind of the thing. We'll get to I'm trying not to get ahead of myself because there's more to the story. But the short version is that this is my story, this EP, but it's also your story. This is my story and what I learned from the experiences and what I took away from it. But then I want the listener to learn from it too, to learn from those experiences and hopefully be encouraged that they can persevere through whatever challenges they're facing and be willing to push through and be hopeful for that. So So we're kind of celebrating the release of this EP. I'm going to go ahead and play another song for you guys. We're going to get into number 2, and hopefully I'll be able to sing it. Hopefully I'm feeling well enough. We'll talk a bit about this song in a moment, but this is song number 2 on the EP, which is my latest release. I say latest, but of course it was several months ago now. Pull the Trigger. So I'm going to go ahead and play this song for you guys. I hope you all enjoy it, but let me know. Let me know if you have a favorite song from the EP, or if there's a certain lyric that connects with you, what your favorite lyric is. Or if there's another song from another artist that has always been kind of a go-to for you, something that's been an encouraging song in tougher times, or a song that just kind of changed your perspective, a song that really stuck with you and was just became a part of your soundtrack for life, let me know. Hope you like this one. This one's called Pull the Trigger.
Thought you died a long time ago. I had left you in a 6-foot hole. But from time to time in my memory, I'll receive a visit from your ghost. I can tell you're just a dream by the way you place your lips on me. But it's never what it seems when I wake up to reality. I wish I'd had the nerve to say it. I had the shot and didn't take it. Now it's too late. The moment doesn't wait forever. So next time I'll just pull the trigger. I've tried so hard to forget, but I guess you can't outrun regret. It was only for a moment, but the scene keeps playing in my head. You had caught me by surprise when you wrapped your arms around my side, and I knew the time was right, but instead I only said goodbye. I wish I'd had the nerve to say it. I had the shot and didn't take it. Now it's too late. The moment doesn't wait forever. So next time I'll just pull the
Thank you. All right. Hopefully that's sounding all right. I'm hanging in there. So that one is Pull the Trigger. That's song number 2 on my EP, Hidden in the Wreckage, which I didn't even talk about the title of the EP. We'll get into that, but anyone who's just tuning in, don't be shy. Say hello. Let me catch up with the chat real quick. Say That It's Over, the first one of yours I heard. I remember hearing it for the first time. Well, thank you. I'm glad. For what it's worth, I think that's a great song too. Like I think I've told you guys, like at some point I'd like to start playing live shows again. And that's a little ways down the road, but one thing I'd like to do for fun is once I have enough songs to play acoustically, I'd like to just start busking, like go downtown every now and then, or just start booking like little cafe gigs, go to karaoke nights and just play a few of my songs. And Say That It's Over is definitely one that would make the cut. Obviously these 6 would make the cut, and then Say That It's Over is another one. I think Waking Up's pretty good. That would probably make the cut. And I've always liked For You. I think For You is a contender as well. But definitely these last, these kind of newest songs, they've definitely resonated with me. It's hard to think of my favorite lyric from The Gift Inside of You while you're singing Pull the Trigger. Yeah, it would be hard to think of lyrics for another song when someone's singing a different song. This lyric, there were times when I would hate myself, but you always left me with a smile. Yeah, and I'm going to I'll dive into that lyric in this song in just a moment here. Thank you for the applause and the fire. You did great, especially since you're sick. Well, thank you. Yeah, hopefully I'll hang in there. So, do you guys remember that a while back, it was like a couple streams back, that I gave you guys a list of titles or like little names. Well, I don't know if names is the right word, but yeah, titles. And I just asked you guys to pick which one resonated the most with you. And there were a few different ones. There was Hidden in the Wreckage. And then there were a couple other ones. I think one was Good Luck to Me. Another one might have been, I'm actually drawing a blank on what some of the other ones were. But anyway, if you guys remember that, I said this is not a song title. This is for something else. I didn't say what it was for, but I just kind of asked your guys' opinion. And most of you picked Hidden in the Wreckage. That was the one that kind of stuck out to most of you. And it ended up sticking with me too. I felt like it was a good title. And what I was looking for is a title for this EP. So if you put that together now, and I was trying to find a single phrase that kind of encapsulated all the songs, I will say when it comes to EPs and when it comes to albums, I've always liked albums that had a designated title. Like I don't like when the album is titled after one of the songs. It's okay if it's titled after one of the lyrics in the song, like if there's a certain line in a lyric and they use that as the title for the album, like that's cool. But I wouldn't have wanted to call I didn't want to call the EP like Pull the Trigger or call the EP Plastic Cup or something like that. I wanted a title that sort of summarized all of the songs. And since the songs are very much about perseverance and about discovering that self-worth, I kind of played with a few different ideas, and ultimately I settled on Hidden in the Wreckage. I really liked that because it just, I think it really summed up the story, is that sometimes life can be messy. Sometimes you can feel like your life is a wreck, or that there's just been a lot of bad things that have piled onto itself. But hidden in that wreckage, hidden in that mess, there is treasure. And that's the main thing. Even Plastic Cup, that's what it says at the very beginning. Even though Plastic Cup is a song about feeling in a low point of life, the last line of that is, I know you feel like a piece of trash, thrown away and forgotten, but please don't let go, because to me, you're treasure. And that kind of summarizes the whole album right there, is that every single one of you, no matter how hard life gets, there is treasure, and that is you. You are treasure. Your life has value and meaning and purpose. There's hope, And that's kind of the point, no matter how bad life gets, no matter how hard, no matter what hurtful or painful moments you might experience, there is treasure in that. There's something to be learned. There's something to be gained. There's something to acquire that then goes on to bless somebody else and helps you to grow into a stronger person. And we don't always see that while we're going through the pain, but it's usually later when we reflect back on those moments that we realize that, which this EP is very much a reflection on the past. And that's kind of what Pull the Trigger is. Becky was saying, I could imagine sitting in a little mom and pop cafe, drinking an iced coffee, and Quincy singing "Say That It's Over" on acoustic. Yeah, I'll have to see if I can book a gig over in the UK sometime. A little cafe over there. But we'll see what happens. Yes, that would be nice. That's the plan. That's the plan, is to have the acoustic and play "Say That It's Over" in a little mom and pop cafe shop. I think that was the name I liked best. I forgot what they all were. Yes, I believe you were one who voted for that name. That was the name that got the most votes. There were a couple other contenders that got some attention, but that was the one that got the most, and I liked that one as well. And especially the more I played with it, I realized, like, hey, this fits really well for the EP. It also inspired the album cover, which I think I can show you guys, actually. One second. There we go. So there's the album cover right there. So I shot that maybe a month ago, to be honest. I shot it like a month ago, and then I was starting my business. Some of you know I've got my second YouTube channel, and that was just getting launched, and I decided maybe I'd better get some momentum with that first and not launch both of these things at the same time. So this EP has actually been done for like a month, but I was just waiting for a more appropriate time to release it. But again, I live on a farm, so this is actually in my backyard. My dad's got a scrapyard back there. You can't see it, but behind the camera, there's actually a barn. And so this scrapyard, it's just got a bunch of extra resources, lumber or, brick, all kinds of different like material and stuff that's just kind of there. And so I was playing around with my camera and trying to find a good angle, and then ended up finding this one spot and got a little lucky. Like, I barely had any time because it was about to rain, but it ended up working out nicely because the rain brought in this nice overcast, so it wasn't like a harsh light on my face. It was a nice even lighting, and it kind of created this moody sky. It was also kind of breezy. Not that you can see any breeze in that particular shot, but it is nice to get like some breeze in your hair and when you're wearing loose clothing and that kind of thing. And so I kind of had to rush to get this shot, but thankfully I was pretty pleased with how it came out. And then just a little bit of editing to get it to look nice. And I think it's one of my better album covers. Album artwork has been a real art because on one hand, it doesn't really matter. Like, most people are just going to hear your song. They're not going to see the album cover. It's not like they're seeing this in a store or something. So on one hand, it doesn't really matter. But on the other hand, you still want something that looks kind of good. And for me, it's constantly been this juggle of, how do I make something that still looks good, but I can do pretty easily? And it's always been hard. Either I work way too hard to create something that looks okay, or I don't work hard enough and it still doesn't look that great. It's been a balancing process to find out how to make a good album cover. But this one I'm pretty pleased with. I was happy with how it came out and thought it worked well for the tone and the vibe of the EP. And thought it came out good. And yeah, as you can see, I've got all the songs listed there: Plastic Cup and Pull the Trigger. So Pull the Trigger, I'm going to talk about the meaning of that, and Hidden in the Wreckage. Nice cover for sure. Thank you, Jack. Yeah, I think the cover looks great. It must be really cool to have all that outside space too. It's definitely nice. It's definitely nice having the property, and very helpful. Let's see here. Can you come to Portsmouth so I don't need to travel? I'm lazy. I hope I can make my way overseas at some point. I can't promise it's going to be soon, but hopefully at some point. Also, the cover with you and your dad when you were little was a great cover. Yeah, and you can see that. If you go to my Bandcamp especially, you can see where I kind of experimented with different album covers to kind of try and find the right look. And for that song, for Love's Not Fair, I do like that one. I like that picture of me and dad, and It just felt kind of appropriate for that album. But again, it's kind of a discovery process, trying to figure out like what is the right approach for album covers for me, like what best represents me as an artist and best represents the song. Obviously in my style of music with a lot of rock and metal, a lot of times it's artwork. Like it's not actually a photograph. It's usually, some kind of graphic art that's been created, but that never felt right for me. I felt like my music's very vulnerable and emotion driven, and I felt like it needed a sense of authenticity to it. So still a little bit of a discovery process, but especially since I'm, more of a solo artist rather than a band. If I was in a band, then maybe I'd go more the art route, like creating, like a picture of some sort, like not photography. But being a solo artist, photography feels a little more appropriate. So yeah, Hidden in the Wreckage kind of inspired that, of just having kind of this scrapyard, this kind of junkyard sort of background a little bit. And there were a few other little concepts, but basically just kind of setting the mood, this kind of mood, very moody and sort of emotional tone to go with the vibe of the album. And so I was pretty pleased. I thought it fit nicely. So that's sort of the sense of Hidden in the Wreckage. Pull the Trigger is an interesting song. I've talked to you guys about it before, but it's a very reflective song, as many of these are. And it's more so, it's looking back on a past relationship, but it's not so much how I felt at the time. It's more like later, because it is a song about regret, and you don't really feel regret until later. You don't feel regret in the moment. It's years later when you think back on it and you wish you did something different. You wish you did things differently, and that's kind of what that song is about. And that particular moment in my life, I've shared before, but that, I was kind of thinking about it because sometimes I feel a little silly. Like that's the only real, like serious relationship I had. And part of me is like, it was just one girl, like sure, there's people who have several girlfriends and they get over it. Like they're fine. Right. But what I realized is that's not a fair comparison. Me comparing her to, just someone's girlfriend that they tried out for a little bit, isn't a fair comparison. It's more like comparing it to somebody that you thought you were going to marry, like that's more like it. Think of, that's the comparison. Someone that you were planning to marry and that didn't work out, so it wasn't just someone you were trying out. Cause I'd liked girls before even her, but she was the only one that I actually pursued that kind of relationship with because, I thought she was the one. And, I'd shared that before, but that sort of ignited that initial thought of what's wrong with me? Why am I not good enough? And I would kind of start to wrestle with that, which, by the way, quick little answer, your value as a person does not come from how somebody else perceives you. And, she's a great person, so this isn't against her or anything, but I was wrong to think that how she viewed me was a reflection of my value as a person. So I hope that makes sense. It's not her fault. It was my fault for thinking that her or anyone that their opinion of me is where my value comes from as a person. I had to learn how does God see me, and once I realized that, that's when I recognized that. Yes, sounds like that was your first true love. So far, my only true love. I'm confident that I'll find that again someday, but that's going to take a little bit of time, you can't really force that to happen. But yeah, all I can say was I had serious intentions about that. And things didn't work out, but we did. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Well, thank you. Things didn't work out, but we did work our friendship out. But of course, now I'm in this scary place, and this is a place, like when you're a teenager, you deal with it. Now I'm old enough that I wouldn't find myself in this situation, but when you're a teen, you're in that place where it's like, I'm her friend, we're on good terms, but I want to be more than friends, but I'm scared because if I admit how I feel, I might lose her for good, and then we're not friends anymore. Or if I I don't want to lose what I've got, but then if I don't say anything, then I'm just stuck being friends. Basically, you're in this miserable place. And that sets up for the next, a later song. We're going to talk about fear, but that's the thing about fear. Fear keeps you comfortably miserable, and that's all that is. That fear of speaking up and sharing the truth, it's fear. It's fear of what might. And what this song is about is basically that's what happens when you give in to fear. You know, when you let fear win, you feel okay in the moment, but later that's when the regret comes. That's when you wish you had stood up. That's when you wish you had said something. That's when you wish you would have taken action. In the moment, you feel good. You know, in the moment, it feels good to stay away from the thing that scares you. But it's later, that the regret comes. And so that song is meant to be kind of a little bit of a cautionary tale. It's a lesson learned, but it's a valuable lesson learned. And that, you know, when you've got something to say or something to do, like the importance of just stepping up and speaking it and just saying it. There's so much more peace that comes with knowing the truth, even if the outcome doesn't turn out. So, you know, don't misinterpret. That song is not about, oh, I wish things worked out with us, or, oh, I wish, you know, oh, if I had only spoken up, we'd be together. That's not what the song is about. The song is about never speaking up and now having to live with never knowing what could have been. And I don't know. So that's kind of what it is. That's why it's like, don't give in to fear. Don't let that be the boss of you. So that's what Pull the Trigger is about. Yeah, Becky's saying, when I was 9, I was planning on marrying my best friend Kyle. Yeah, that sounds like a 9-year-old plan. But I don't know. Maybe he would have been a good partner. I say first because I'm sure you will find true love again when the time is right. Well, thanks, Jack. I appreciate that. And we'll see, you know. I think the scariest part of that is it's not exactly something you can control. It's just something that you kind of hope for. And all I can say is I'm doing what I can to find it, and then just trusting God that, you know, that the timing will be right when it does come. But in the meantime, I can't let that outcome be the source of my joy. Yes, it's something I want. There's nothing wrong with wanting things, but you do have to be careful with if your happiness depends on something that you can't control, well then what does that mean? You're just supposed to be miserable until you get the thing that you're looking for? It's like, I don't think that's how we're supposed to live life. I think you're supposed to find what you can be grateful for, what you can appreciate. And yes, you set goals and you work towards those things, but it's learning to appreciate the moments while you're experiencing them and appreciate the chapter of life that you're currently in. And so that you're making memories, you're learning from them, and you're becoming a better person. So when that next chapter presents itself, you know, you can step into it, you'll be ready for it, and you can actually appreciate it. Which, speaking of which, using that phrasing chapter, that's sort of another thing about this EP. I feel like a lot of these songs came after a lot of my older songs. Like they're newer songs for me. And I think that's the thing about this EP is it feels like sort of the closing on one chapter of my life, sort of these past 10 years of my life of learning and developing as a person. This EP feels like a nice reflection of the end of that chapter, that stage of isolation and investing in myself and learning and growing, and the beginning of a new chapter, the beginning of what is to come. And I think that transitions nicely into our next song, because our next song, and Jack, I believe this is a favorite of yours, this next song is A Mirror That Was Broken, and I will talk about the meaning of this song in just a moment here, but this actually goes really well. When we're talking about the end of one chapter and the beginning of the next chapter, this is very much the song. And it's kind of nice that the song is near the middle of the album. Again, if you're not counting the bonus track, this is technically the middle song, because this is the turning point of the story. This is a song that looks back at the hurtful times. It looks back at Plastic Cup, and it looks back at Pull the Trigger, the times where I felt lonely and the times I had my heart broken, the regret from the past. But this is a song about acceptance, and this is a song about looking back at that and then choosing to look ahead and not let the past define who I am, but to learn from it and take it with me moving forward. And so I'll go ahead and give this song a play, and then we'll talk about it. But this is A Mirror That Was Broken. I hope you like it.
And so I lived happily ever after, or so I thought, until she told me it was over. A broken heart has a way of putting life on hold. And when I start to think, I never seem to find an answer. And I am falling apart now, for all I know. Everything's changing and I must let go. But I keep reflecting on better days and wondering if life will ever be the same. Scraping up the pieces, cutting up my hands, looking for myself in a mirror that is broken. I said goodbye and never saw my friends again. Then took some time to see if I could make things clear. It's a lonely drive when there's no one in the passenger seat, and I'll catch myself often glancing in the rearview mirror. 'Cause I am falling apart now, for all I know. Everything's changing and I must let go. But I keep reflecting on better days and wondering if life will ever be the same. Scraping up the pieces, cutting up my hands, looking for myself in a mirror that is broken. With every single tear, there's a lesson to be learned. With every single scar, is a treasure to be earned. But I'll never find healing if I'm holding on to hurt. I'll never see heaven if I'm face down in the dirt. With every single tear, there's a lesson to be learned. With every single scar, is a treasure to be earned. But I'll never find healing if I'm holding on to hurt. And so I'm letting go, 'cause I am falling apart now, for all I know. Caught a glimpse of myself before I let him go. I'm looking ahead now to better days and wondering what life has got in store for me. I'm falling apart now, for all I know. Fragments of memories from long ago, but those days are over, so I'll move on. I know that the best is yet to come, displaying all the pieces, showing who I am, formed a masterpiece from a mirror that was broken. Thank you. Again, that was A Mirror That Was Broken from my EP, Hidden in the Wreckage. So if you're just tuning in, don't be shy. We're celebrating the release of my EP, Hidden in the Wreckage, and I am sharing a little bit about the story told in the EP and a little bit behind the songs. So let's get caught up with the chat here. All right. Yeah, all your songs are fantastic, but A Mirror That Was Broken is just special to me. Well, thank you, Jack. I appreciate that. And, hey, that's very normal, and I see that as a good thing, to be honest. Some of you guys know I used to have a band years ago,
It actually would have been about 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago, that we released our EP. And I was in a band called At War With Myself. And one thing that I found actually very reassuring was we had 5 songs in that EP, but it was really nice that different people liked different songs on the EP. It wasn't like there was one obvious song that everyone liked and then the rest were just tolerated or okay. To me, it was a good sign that, oh, you know, so-and-so likes this song, but this person, they think this song's the best, and this person, they like this song best. And, you know, like that's a good sign that, okay, we must have a good collection of songs if everybody's kind of picking and choosing which one's their favorite, and there isn't one obvious one. But I'm glad, you know, I'm glad that there is a song that is resonating with you. And I appreciate you, Becky, saying, Jack, you have good taste in music. Here's our highlighted lyric. It's a lonely drive when there's no one in the passenger seat, and I'll catch myself often glancing in the rearview mirror. And if I can be so bold to say, that's probably one of my favorite lyrics that I've written. It's just one of those ones, I don't know, I got a little lucky with it. It was during the process, and then, but it's just very nice to find, just to find a word, just to find a phrasing that so well captures how you felt during that time, you know, and that lyric definitely does. And look at this special treat. We got a highlighted lyric from Jack as well. I keep reflecting on better days and wondering if life will ever be the same. That lyric just speaks to where I found myself so often. And it's easy to be in that place. And that's kind of what this song is about. It's about that battle of reflecting on what has been. Like, are you going to just sort of, is that all you're ever going to fixate on is the past, or are you going to look forward? So this song really is a choice. It's like an internal struggle, and it's a turning point. And we're going to dive into that. I'll talk about that a little bit. Music is great medicine. I'm feeling a lot better this last hour. Well, great. That means a lot. I'm glad that you're feeling better, Becky, and I'm glad that the music is helping with that. Thank you for the applause and the fire, you all. So yes, let's look at these lyrics a little bit. So this song, like I said, this is really the turning point of the album and the turning point of the story, because the character is sort of struggling with where they are and where they're trying to go. And so basically the song starts off with the heartbreak and feeling kind of stuck in life. And yes, that's the lyric right there. It says, I'm falling apart now for all I know. Everything's changing and I must let go. You know, like it or not, life keeps moving on. Life changes. So what's the problem? The problem is I keep reflecting on better days and wondering if life will ever be the same. And I think what I've discovered is I think this is sometimes a little bit of a trap, because when you're young, when you're a child, you don't have a past, at least not much of a past. You don't have much to look back on. So all you have is the future and your imagination. So all you can only imagine what the future holds. And you tend to have a more optimistic view of the future. But once you get a little bit older, once you've gotten through your teenage years and you get into your adult years and you get into your later years, now you have a past. And so life doesn't just stay the same. The difference, your perspective changes, because now you have something to look back on and you can start playing the comparison game. It's no longer just imagining what the future could be. Now you can take, quote unquote, an educated guess. You can look at what your life has been and let that sort of dictate how you view your future. And so you can say, well, man, if this is what's happened in my life so far, then this is probably what's going to happen in the future. That's sort of our deduction skills. That's how we deduce things, is whatever has happened, surely it's going to repeat itself or happen again, or that's just the way life is. That's kind of what we see. And unfortunately, sometimes we kind of lose that hope, that sort of ignorant bliss that we used to have as a child, and that sort of optimistic look of the future. And we sort of seem to be under this assumption that our best days are already behind us. And the only really nothing has changed. I mean, if you think about it, there was a time when those best days didn't exist. There was a time before then when they hadn't happened yet. And the only reason they seem so good is because you lived through them and now you have them to look back on. But there's nothing that says you can't have good days ahead to live through, and then one day you'll look back on those days as well. But somehow we deal with this temptation where we have this past that is so so clear. It's so easy to look back. I mean, even in the, a song like Pull the Trigger, it's looking back and seeing how easy the answer is now. It's a lot easier seeing the answer to the problem years later when I can see a clearer perspective from it. It was a lot harder to find the answer while I was going through it. But that's sort of the deception, is that, I can see it so clear now, but you have to remember that the days that you live, they're not clear while you're living them. And so it really is just learning to not rely so much on what you have seen, but focus more on what you are experiencing. And yes, you can learn. There's a lot of value in the past, and I think the past is a special thing. It's really important to be grateful for it and to learn from it, but ultimately to look ahead, and to not fall for this trick of thinking that that's all that life will ever be. That's the best life will ever be, because you don't know that. You don't know what a day holds. You don't know what your future holds. But what I can say is that your perspective going forward will give you your best shot. And so a lot of people, I think, get themselves in this trap where they they're almost setting themselves up for failure because of how they're approaching their future. And Jack, I see that you got to get going. I'll have to catch the rest of the stream later. Take care, Becky. Hope you feel better. Thanks for the stream. Jack, I always appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for your support. I'm glad I was able to get your favorite song in on there. And but thank you for hanging out, and I hope everything goes well with you. Hoping the best for you. But yeah, so a mirror that was broken, the lesson there is it's looking back and not even looking back at life that was changing and looking back at the good parts and the hurtful parts, but then ultimately realizing that both parts are you. They're both your story, and they're both the things that shape you into who you'll become. And it's really your choice who you want to become and how you want those things to affect you. And so that's why there's a turning point after the bridge and that final chorus saying that the past is over. I'm going to move ahead and trusting that my best days are ahead of me. I know that the best is yet to come. And basically looking at those broken pieces, those hurtful parts of the past, and saying, I'm not going to be ashamed of these things. I can actually be proud of these things. These are the things that shaped me. These are the things that taught me. And these are the things that helped me to become a better version of myself. And so that's the turning point of that song. I'm no longer going to stay stuck in the past and only reflecting on what has been, but I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to move ahead with hope, and I'm going to look forward to what the future has in store. But it's tempting. Again, I wanted to point out that lyric that you highlighted, Becky, because there is that time of loneliness where everyone seems like they know where you're going, and you're making that choice. And that's sort of what that line is reflecting. It's like you're moving forward, but there's that temptation to keep looking back. It's you're so alone, and I think sometimes that desperation for connection has you tempted to look in the rearview mirror and look to the past and get stuck. Like there's that temptation to stay stuck there, but sometimes you just gotta keep moving forward. And even when the temptation's there, you just got to forgive yourself and keep trying. Don't give up. And eventually you get there. So that's a little bit of what that song is about. And then that's going to bring us to song number 4, which appropriately, again, this is what's really satisfying about the EP for me, is that there's really an arc here, and hopefully you guys are seeing that there's an arc in the story, starting at a low point, kind of reflecting on that. Then there's a turning point of learning to accept the past, but making a choice of moving forward with hope. And then that leads into song number 4, which is a declaration. And that song is Farewell to Fear. And I'll talk more about this song, but it literally is a declaration. This is a statement of saying, okay, yes, I've had some hurtful things. Yes, some things haven't worked out the way I hoped, but you know what? I'm not going to let that define my life. I'm not going to let my failures or my fears define my life. I'm still going to try. I'm still going to pursue what called me to begin with, that call to adventure. And so that's what this particular song is about. So this is sort of the turning point for our character. No longer down in the dumps, no longer defeated, but moving forward boldly and confidently. And so this is Farewell to Fear. So hope you enjoy it.
just waiting for me. Just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me. Don't be afraid. Just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me. Waiting for me. Waiting for me. Don't be afraid. Just hold on to faith. I know there's adventure just waiting for me.
Oh yeah, there we go. That was Farewell to Fear. And that is song number 4 from my EP Hidden in the Wreckage. For anyone just tuning in, don't be shy, say hello. We're going to get caught up with the chat, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that song, Farewell to Fear. Thank you, Becky. Yay, Farewell to Fear is one of my faves. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you like that one. Here's our highlighted lyric. There's a fire deep down inside me, but it's getting cold. And thank you for the emojis, the applause, and the fire. And yeah, that particular lyric. So again, this song is really a declaration because one thing I've learned, and I've seen it in my own life and I've seen it in the lives of others. And once you recognize it, you see that it's everywhere, but fear is really deceitful. Fear oftentimes kind of disguise, like as someone who really values wisdom, like I highly value wisdom. I strive to be a wise person. as someone who values wisdom, fear is very good at disguising itself as wisdom. Sometimes people think they're making the wise choice when actually they're making the fearful choice. And surprisingly, sometimes what can sometimes seem foolish is actually just faithfulness, just being faithful. And I think true wisdom is being able to discern the difference. And it's a tricky thing because you realize so many people are making choices based off of fear. It's something that they're scared of, and so they make the choice to avoid it, or the choice to ignore it, or a choice that feels safe in comparison. When there's a true calling on their life, there's a true calling on your life, and you know it's what you're meant to do. You know it's what you dream of doing. It's what you're passionate of doing or being, but it's the scary thing to pursue. And that's the battle that we all have to face, that internal struggle of what we feel calling us and deciding, am I going to answer the call or am I going to stay comfortable? And as I've said before, what fear does is it keeps you comfortably miserable. And you don't realize it, but you convince yourself that you're okay, but so often fear deceives you into keeping you comfortable, but you're miserable. You're not where you're meant to be. You're not living life as full as you're meant to. And so this song, Farewell to Fear, is acknowledging that. The first verse, it kind of acknowledges that fear kind of gives the impression that it means well, that it always means well for you. It means to keep you safe, but to the point that it's actually kind of keeping you from living life. It's sort of withholding. In its attempt to keep you safe, it is kind of ironically preventing you from really living a meaningful life. Yeah, thank you, Becky, saying, yep, that's so true. And so that's the thing about fear. That's sort of what that first verse says. And then the second verse, here we have that lyric, there's a fire deep down inside, but it's getting cold. And that's that cautionary tale aspect of it, because it's recognizing, there's a certain point in life where you might recognize, there's something I'm meant to do. There's something I'm meant to be. There's something I'm meant to pursue. And I can feel it, like I know I'm meant to do that. There's something inside of me, and that's there. There's something in me, but it's getting cold. And that's kind of what it's saying is there, you have a gift inside of you. You have a treasure, but sometimes opening that gift, sometimes pursuing that treasure, sometimes living that calling is scary to do. And the more you ignore it, the more you suppress it, that fire starts to get colder and colder. And I think to be truly alive, to be fully alive, is to answer that call and to let that fire ignite and to be who you're meant to be, to live that life that you're called to live. And so that's what the proclamation is farewell to fear and good luck to me. And it's kind of this, it's meant to be this sort of attitude of, yes, I know I don't have all the answers. I don't know what's going to happen. So that's kind of the good luck to me portion is, I don't know what's going to happen, but what I do know is, first off, what's the point of life if you're not going to play the game? What are you trying so hard to preserve when you're not even using it? It's kind of like making a bunch of money and never spending it, or it's any analogy of acquiring something, working so hard to acquire something that you never actually use, and it's like what is the point? And so it's the same thing with life. Like, we have a gift of life, but how often are we, in our attempt to live a safe life, we're trying to preserve life. Ironically, we're not really living much of a life at all. We're just kind of going through the motions. And so it's saying, what's the point of life? It knows that, and it knows I refuse to live in this misery. I don't have all the answers. I don't know what the future holds, but what I do know is if I continue to let fear dictate my life, if I continue to make choices based on fear, I know I'm going to stay miserable. I know I'm never going to reach full fulfillment. I know I'm never going to live a meaningful life if I continue to let my decisions be based on fear. So that's why I say farewell to fear and good luck to me. And then the last part of that, though, is it's not just rejecting fear, but it's replacing it with something. And that thing is faith. It's walking forward with faith. And that's why I say sometimes faith can almost seem foolish, but it's not. It's something deeper than foolishness. Foolishness is shallow. Foolishness doesn't think that far ahead, but faith has thought ahead. Faith says, I know there's something out there, and even though I don't know all the answers, there's something worth living for, and there's something worth pursuing. And so I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to hold on to faith, and I'm going to trust that my life purpose is out there somewhere. Whatever it's meant to be, I'm going to find it. And for me, I phrase that as adventure. I know there's adventure just waiting for me. And I don't know about you. I know for me, that's something that I want. I want, when I'm an old man someday and I'm looking back on my life, I want to be able to say, wow, what an adventure. I want to look back and see that my life was an adventure. And that's what I want. So that's the best word I can use to define it. And that's not to say, I know not everyone is a thrill seeker. That's not saying you have to be a thrill seeker to have a fulfilling life. But even still, just because you're not pursuing thrills doesn't mean that your life has a purpose that you might still be scared of, that you might still be scared to pursue. Because there's a lot of things. There's so many times that sometimes we know the right thing to do or the easy thing to do, and the only reason we don't do it is because it's scary, and that fear makes it a little harder to do. But how much better off we are when we don't let fear dictate ourselves. It's amazing how many times the Bible says, fear not, do not be afraid. God tells us so many times, I have not given you a spirit of fear. So anything that is scaring you, is not from God. It's not what you're meant. It's not how you're meant to live your life. We're meant to walk by faith. So, would you ever go cave diving? Probably. If you're talking like those really narrow caves, to be honest, it looks a little slow paced for me. Like, it looks exciting. I'd rather do maybe a big cave, like exploring a big cave and with a little more movement to it. Like, I don't want to be like crawling my way through. If there's lots of caverns to explore, that sounds fun. Rock climbing, again, something a little more fast-paced climbing, like that sounds fun. So I wouldn't say no to that, but it would kind of depend on the environment. But I typically enjoy, like when it comes to adventurous things, I typically enjoy faster-paced things. I'm not claustrophobic or anything, so if you're talking about those like really narrow caves, that wouldn't bother me. But at the same time, I don't know if it would be fun if I feel like, okay, I've been crawling through this tight corridor for 5 minutes and it all looks the same. Like, that doesn't sound fun to me. I might not be scared, but I might also not have fun, if that makes sense. So I was hoping you'd say no. Looks very dangerous to me. It depends. Well, I'm a little bit... I don't mind a little bit of danger, but that's all right. Yep. Just because it's something I'd want to do doesn't mean you'd have to do it. And don't misinterpret what I'm saying here. When I'm talking about fear, it's not just about being a thrill seeker. I'm not saying like you need to live life to the fullest. You need to go skydiving and find the most thrilling thing. That's not exactly what I mean. For some people, maybe you do need to do that. Sometimes that can be the thing that sort of helps you conquer your fears. So maybe it's not such a bad idea to do that. But what I mean is sometimes fear is just there's someone I need to talk to and I'm too scared to talk to them. I need to tell the truth about something and I'm too scared to tell the truth. Or there's something I want to do with my life, but I'm scared what other people will think. That's what I mean by fear. So facing fear doesn't necessarily mean being a thrill seeker. I am a thrill seeker. I like skateboarding. I like martial arts. I like roller coasters. I like action movies. I like that stuff. So yes, I'm a thrill seeker, but even being a thrill seeker, that's not exactly what I mean by overcoming your fears. I mean more so the fears that are keeping you from living a meaningful and purposeful life. And a lot of times it's not a very loud thing that's scary. Sometimes it's like a very personal thing or a very private thing. And that's the thing. I often watch those types of videos on YouTube about people who got killed doing stuff like that. Fell down a rabbit hole. I'm sure there's a lot of videos of things that do that. People that do that kind of stuff. That's part of what happens, whenever you do something kind of thrilling, there's always, part of what makes it thrilling is the fact that there's a little bit of danger, and it just depends on the conditions that you go after it. Certainly, and again, that's why I say, anything that you do, I believe in taking calculated risks. And so, don't be foolish if you're going to do those things. If you're going to do something dangerous, there's nothing wrong with that, but make sure you're prepared for it. don't just be foolish and go into it ignorantly. So anyway, that's the declaration song. So you've got the turning point, you've got the declaration. I'm not going to let fear rule my life anymore. And then finally, this is technically the last song on the EP, not including the bonus song. But this is really the end of the story, and this is redemption. This is new life. This is grace. And this is the answer, this is the answer to the question brought up in the first song. And this is the song Love's Not Fair. So I'm going to go ahead and play it, and then I'll talk a little bit about this song. But let me get my guitar tuned first. Stan, I don't know if you're out there, but I know you enjoy the tuning segments. So sorry if you missed that. All right, switching to a clean tone. Here we go. Hope you like it. This one's called Love's Not Fair.
Staring at my own reflection through shattered bits of glass, showing me the perfect picture of who I really am. But when you look at me, you never turn away. Kneeling next to me and picking up the pieces. Why do you care? I know I'm undeserving of the love that you have chosen to share. It's just not fair. I am such a useless failure, fallen to the ground. Every effort that I muster is never good enough. But when you look at me, standing next to me and holding out your hand, why do you care? I know I'm undeserving of the love that you have chosen to share. It's just not fair. If I'd take just one moment away from my self-loathing, then maybe I would notice that I'm not meant to be broken. If I'd take just one moment away from my self-loathing, then maybe I would notice that I'm not meant to be broken. So stop beating up myself. You took the punishment yourself, and it's just foolish pride to think that I could ever hurt myself enough to cover what I've done. I could cut myself dry, and it still would never be enough. It makes no sense at all. Why do you care? undeserving of the love that you have chosen to share. It's just not fair. But love isn't fair. In spite of all I am, you chose to die for me, and that isn't fair. But love's not fair. All right,
Thank you. Again, that was Love's Not Fair, which is technically the last song on my EP, Hidden in the Wreckage, unless you're listening to the version with the bonus track. So the bonus track version is available on Bandcamp and on my YouTube channel here. But we'll talk about this song in just a moment. Let me get caught up with the chat. Let's see here. Here's our highlighted lyric. Why do you care? I know I'm undeserving of the love that you have chosen to share. And thank you for the applause emoji. Much appreciated, Becky. So, yeah, this song is this is kind of the answer. And that's another thing that's really satisfying about this EP, is because at the beginning of the EP, the person is saying, would someone just show me some love and tell me that I'm good enough? And what Love's Not Fair tells you is that love isn't something that is earned. You know, the grace that God gives is not something that anyone can earn by their works alone. You can never be good enough, but you don't have to be good enough. You can come as you are. He accepts you as you are, and he gives that love generously. That was the thing I had to learn, was I was so hard on myself. I was so hateful towards myself, and always beating myself up for messing up, for not being good enough, for not being perfect enough. I saw my shortcomings and my flaws, and I hated myself for it. And, you know, I sort of expected God can't just forgive me like that, like it's nothing. You know, I have to earn it. I have to do something to work it. And the thing that really changed that, there was a scripture that I found. It's found in the book of Psalms. It's chapter 103, verses 10 through 12. And it says, talking about God, he doesn't treat us as our sins deserve or repay us according to our iniquities. For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his love for those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions. And what that verse means, as far as the east is from the east and the west never touch. And so it's saying when God forgives us, when he removes our transgressions, it's as if we'd never sinned. Those times when I messed up and I'd be kind of shaming myself, that wasn't God. That wasn't coming from him. And it was a liar. It was the voice of a liar, of a deceiver, telling me that God is ashamed of you. God is disappointed with you. You let God down again. That's not what God says to me. That's not what he says. He says when he forgives me, it's as if I'd never done it. And he's willing and eager. He is glad when I come back and I ask for forgiveness and I ask for that second chance. God wants to redeem and restore. And hating myself, you know, the biggest thing I had to learn, it takes a lot of humility, because you fool yourself into thinking that you're being humble. Like, oh, I'm just being humble. I don't deserve this, because I'm being humble by not accepting this forgiveness and by beating myself up. And it's like, no, you're actually being prideful, thinking that God's goodness isn't enough to forgive you, and thinking that you have to earn it. Like, it's up to you to earn that forgiveness. That's a sense of pride. And it's a sense of pride. I mean, how much does God love you? And you don't even love yourself. You know, you're being hateful towards yourself when God cherishes you. God loves you. And so it takes a lot of humility to accept that and realize, hey, if God loves me this much, then I can love myself. You know, I don't have to hate myself. I don't have to, you know, my value as a person doesn't depend on my ability to be good. There's one who loves me just as I am. And if that's good enough for him, that's good enough for me. And it takes a lot of humility to learn to love yourself. And when I say love yourself, I'm not talking arrogance, I'm not talking narcissism, thinking of yourself highly than others, but just recognizing that you are valued, that there's someone who loves you, and it's okay to love yourself too, and live a life of gratitude. That was the biggest thing. Once I learned that, once I accepted that gift, once I accepted that forgiveness, before where I struggled with guilt, that's when I started to live in grace. And that's when I started to live with gratitude, and that gratitude motivated me and changed the way that I pursued life. And so that was the real turning point. And so you see the arc in the EP, the arc from someone who feels like they're down in a valley and tossed out, and then recognizing that they are appreciated, that they are loved, and learning to accept that. And yeah, Becky asking, what about people who take their own life or try to? I mean, a lot of these songs are especially for those people because they are loved. Unfortunately, people who find themselves in that position, they're the ones that are dealing with that same lie of thinking that their life has no value, of hating themselves or feeling that they're not worth anything, and it's a lie. It's something that's been deceived, and it's a hard lie to get over. It's amazing. No, you're okay to ask that. It's and that's something that's on my heart, is because I'm someone, which for the record, by the way, I dealt with self-worth and stuff. I've never been someone who's felt that way of ending it all or anything like that. It's kind of weird. Because I'm someone who really values life. Like when I was very young, I realized when I turned 13, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a teenager now. I'm not a kid anymore, and I'll never be a kid again. And that was the first time I realized sort of the finality of life. And it made me want to live a fulfilling life. It made me want to make the most of this life. So that's why I'm so passionate about living life to the fullest and overcoming fear and persevering. That's why that's so important to me, because I have such a value for life. And ironically, yes, I have such a passion for life, but that doesn't mean that I haven't had my own struggles, my own concerns and challenges. And it's never been enough to overcome my passion for life. But I clearly recognize that sometimes the topics I talk about are very much in line with people who might struggle with that. There might be people that unfortunately don't see life the way I do. They don't see life as a gift. They see it as a curse. They hate their lives, and they think they'd be better off. They think everyone else would be better off if they were gone, or they'd be more at peace if they were to just end it. And my heart breaks for those people, because again, I have such a passion for life, and I believe life is such a gift. And I believe every life has purpose and value. And so that's what I hope, is that someone can learn from this song, from the songs on this EP, that they can realize that they're not the only ones who are experiencing hurt. They're not the only ones who have those kind of questions. And then hopefully these songs can bring a sense of comfort and a sense of guidance and direction. And what I truly believe is that every life has purpose and value and meaning. I believe every life is created by God, and you were created with purpose and value and meaning. He's got plans for you. You're not a mistake. You're not an accident. You matter. And I think that's the most important thing. Becky was saying when I was 8, yeah, after my mom. And I'm so sorry that you felt that way. I know, I've been fortunate thus far in life not to lose someone so close to me. And I know that it's got to be devastating when you lose someone, when you lose somebody that you love. And that's the thing too, is emotions are a peculiar thing, because emotions are really powerful, and I think they're important, but so often we can reach those low points in lives, or those dramatic moments in life where the emotions are simultaneously comforting, but also, if we're not careful, they can be a little deceiving. And I'm trying to tread lightly here. I think it's such a blessing that we can feel the things that we feel. I think it's nice that I know that sounds like a weird way to phrase it, but it's nice that when there's someone we love, that we are able to grieve that loss, that we can be sad that we lost them, and we can express that hurt of losing something that we care about. But at the same time, we have to be careful not to let those emotions dictate permanent actions. My little brother kept me going. We've always been close. And thank God for your little brother. That's important. It's important that you have to recognize the family that you have and to recognize that your life still has purpose and meaning. And also what your mom would want for you, because you know that your mom would want the best for you and want you to go on to live a happy and fulfilling life. And sometimes it is hard. There are those hurtful stages in life where it seems like it'd be easier. It'd be easier if you could just end it all. But I think that's where that faith comes in. It's where you don't know the end of the story yet, and you just have to believe that the end of the story is a happy ending and it's a good ending. And every story, every adventure has its ups and downs. The best stories aren't the ones that just keep going up and up and up and up and things just keep getting better. It has those valleys in there, but it's something about the human spirit overcoming those valleys. It's something about coming out stronger, and it's something about using your story to then connect with somebody who is going through a similar thing and being able to carry them through that valley as well. That's a really special thing that we each have, and it hurts when we experience it. And unfortunately, that's just part of the way life is while we live in this world. And yeah, man, wow. Yeah, I'm older than her now. And but what a blessing that you've lived that long, and I'm certainly thankful for what it's worth. I'm thankful you held on so that we could connect and I could share my songs with you, and we could have such fun live streams and such conversations, and especially in days where I don't see my friends as much anymore. Those of you on the live streams, I mean, you're some of the closest friends that I have right now, because that's just the way that life goes. And that's the thing. We can never predict that. We never know where life is going to take us or what people we're going to be connected to and how our stories connect us to other people. And so I'm certainly, I'm sorry for, of course, I'm sorry for the pain and the hurt that you felt. But like I said, there's always redemption and there's always restoration. And those hurtful moments, it's not always easy while you're experiencing them. And sometimes it takes a long time of reflection, but it's oftentimes looking back that we realize the lessons that we learned from that and how we apply them moving forward and how they help us help others, how we learn from them, how we become stronger from them. And so that's kind of the story of the EP, of just recognizing that when you find yourself in those dark, lonely places of hurt, just remembering that there is a bright side. There is another side to come out of, and you'll come out better than you were going into it. And then that story goes on to connect you with others. And thank you. Yeah, Becky's saying, I'm so happy and grateful for these streams. Well, thank you. And I think that transitions nicely into the bonus song. So I think the EP works well with just the 5 songs, but I thought this was kind of cool. You were saying you liked this version of the song that I shared. It's The Gift Inside of You. And what's interesting about it is, so when I wrote this song, whenever I write a song and it's one that can be performed just on an acoustic guitar, sometimes I like to just do a little demo recording for myself. So that recording is literally, it's just my phone. I just have a little recording app on my phone. I hit record, set it down, grabbed my guitar, and just started playing the song. And so it was one take, one recording of me just sort of doing a test run of the song. And I don't know what it is, but it's not even a perfect recording. Like, I actually get the timing wrong on some of the lyrics. Like, I come in a little early in the first verse on some of the lines. And, it's not like the greatest vocal performance, and I even mess up on the guitar a little bit, but there was just something about the recording. I found myself listening to it over and over again. And I don't know, maybe I was just happy that I had a new song. But there was something about it that I liked, and I was already kind of thinking, like, maybe I'll post this, maybe I'll make a little audio video or something and just post it as a little video just to keep the recording, since if I'm listening to it so much, maybe other people will find it interesting as well. And I've heard before, you hear other artists, they have those like acoustic tracks or those live acoustic tracks that are a little more raw and not like super polished. So that kind of crossed my mind. And then when I came to the thought of the EP, I was like, hey, what if this was a bonus track? Hey, Silas, good to have you there. Good to have you here. But I was like, what if it was a bonus track, And I wasn't sure about distributing it. Like I didn't think I wanted to release it through Spotify or anything like that. But then I thought, well, on Bandcamp and on YouTube, it could be cool to have it as an extra song. And so I've actually got the track here. I think I'm going to play the full band version for you guys because, one, I could use practice on that, and two, just to kind of share that version with you. But on the album, we have this, you could call it, I mean, yeah, I guess it is a stripped down version, but it's not even a produced version. Whoops. There we go. Sorry, I turned delay on by accident. But yeah, we might listen to this real quick, and Silas, you'll have to let me know how you're doing, but I'll play this song in a little bit. But this is the last song, and what I kind of like about this, I think it works so well with the EP, is that the first 5 songs are all from my perspective. They're my story, and I'm saying, I felt this way, and here's what I did, and here's what happened to me, and it's my perspective. But the gift inside of you is a different perspective, and the way I think of it in terms of the EP, now it shifts the perspective to the listener, to you listening to the EP, and it kind of takes the question and says, all right, this is my story. This is the choice that I made. Now, what are you going to do? Because this is your story as well. My journey of realizing, like, a feeling like, am I valuable? Do I have any worth? Am I not loved? And then realizing, oh, I am loved. I do have value. My life does have purpose and meaning. I had to make that choice, and I had to accept that grace and receive that. That's my story. And now it takes the question and it gives it to the listener. What are you going to do? Because your life has purpose and meaning too. There's a gift inside of you, but a gift is still a gift even if it's unopened. You've got a gift in you, but it's still up to you to actually open that gift, to receive that gift, and to go with it, to live out your life purpose and meaning. And we've talked about this before, but this particular song, it doesn't actually have a clear answer. It kind of leaves on a little bit of a cliffhanger. And you don't really know what decision does the person in the song make. Do they choose to cling to life or to change? And so so I kind of like that. I think it's sort of a nice ending. It's kind of a nice like post-credit ending to the EP of sort of saying, all right, that's my story. Now, what about your story? What decision are you going to make in your life? Silas saying, I love the album cover of the EP. Well, thank you. Yep, we've just been talking about it. I've been playing through some of the songs. I think we're going to listen to this recording, and then I might play the full band version for you, and we'll wrap things up. But thank you, Silas. Yep, the EP, I was just kind of sharing how this EP is really my story. These songs, it starts with sort of a low point in my life to a turning point, and then ultimately receiving God's grace and recognizing that life has value and purpose and meaning. And that's why it's called Hidden in the Wreckage, because every life, no matter how messy life can get, every life has purpose and meaning. And ultimately what is hidden in the wreckage is treasure. Your life is valuable. Your life has treasure. Your life has a purpose and a meaning to it. And so no matter how nasty life gets, no matter how much things seem to fall apart, recognize that there's something to learn from that. You can come out the other side stronger and a wiser person, a better version of yourself. And so, but thank you. Yes, I'm glad that you liked how the cover turned out. I was pretty pleased with how it came out as well. I've listened to the EP on Spotify. Is it really on Spotify now? That's great. I wasn't sure if it was out on there yet. That's awesome. Becky's saying, I kind of worried the depressing stuff I said would put people off watching. I wouldn't worry about that. And like I've said before, the purpose of this stream, it's kind of funny. I'm actually going to give you credit. I don't know if you've read the description of the streams, Becky, but I have a description for what these streams are about. The reason it's called Rock and Talk and the reason it's called Stripped and Sincere, it's a simple format. I just play some songs and then we enjoy some conversation. But I've got a quote in there that you said, you once described my streams as being like group therapy with a rock soundtrack. And I thought, that's such I think that's the goal, And so that's basically what these streams are for, I want you to feel like this is a place that you've got friends and you can open up and you can be honest. And, I appreciate you being brave enough and vulnerable enough to share that. And so don't ever worry about that being off-putting. Just understand that that I'm rooting for you. You've got Silas is rooting for you, Jack's rooting for you, Daniel. You've got lots of friends that are rooting for you, and we're all here to pick each other up and help each other. We're all here to learn from our life experiences and grow together and live a meaningful life together. And so I appreciate you being honest enough and brave enough to share that. And what I hope is that as you share that it kind of brings a sense of relief from the burden, and that you leave these streams feeling encouraged and hopeful and determined to keep moving forward and to move forward with a sense of hope rather than feeling like you have to suppress this hurt and just keep it all to yourself. But thank you, Silas. I'm glad. It's good to hear that the EP is on Spotify. And the Becky asking, what does EP actually stand for? I just realized I don't know. I think I know I've looked it up before, but I don't know for sure. All I know is an EP is like a shorter album, because an LP is the full-length album. What is an EP? Extended play. Interesting. So EP extended play is a musical recording that is longer than a standard single, but shorter than a full-length album. I gotcha. Okay, so a single is one song, even two songs sometimes. An EP is 3 to 6 songs, so it's longer than a single, but it's not a full-length album. And then an LP is a long play album, and that's usually 8 or more songs. Gotcha. So, yeah, my understanding, I knew EPs were kind of a shorter collection of songs, but, I always forget. So extended play, that's what it stands for. Cool, we can hear both versions. That's right, I'm going to treat you to both versions today. I remember that. Yep. All those songs are really helpful and encouraging to me. Well, thank you, Silas. I appreciate that, because that's their purpose. That's their intent. It's to tell a story. The songs have an arc. They start at a low point, and then they learn from that, and they make the choice to move on, to not listen to fear anymore, and ultimately find redemption and move on and look forward to life. And so I hope that you find the songs encouraging, and I hope that they can sort of be a soundtrack to you, and as you move forward, that they can be songs that give you that fuel to persevere, and those times where you feel a little down, you can listen to them and say, hey, at least I know this person understands how I feel, and be able to relate to that. Yes, it did feel good to get that off my chest. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Becky, and yes, you're very welcome. So real quick, we'll listen to the version on the EP. This is the bonus version. So yeah, Silas, I don't know if you've actually heard this, because if you've been listening on Spotify, then this is not on Spotify. This is only on the YouTube version, which I posted today, so you can find the YouTube version. And then it's also on my Bandcamp, so you can download this version if you want it. But this is the song, The Gift Inside of You. And again, this version, it's just recorded on my phone. There was a little bit of processing just to get the volume to match with the other tracks on the album. But this is just a single take, and there was something about it. I don't know. I just kind of like the rawness of it. I like how after hearing all the polished tracks, and you hear this kind of small, scrappy guitar. And I don't know. It's just a nice kind of cozy way to finish off the album. So here we go. We're going to listen to this version, and then I'll play the full band version for you. But this is The Gift Inside of You.
You're getting closer to the edge and losing hope with every step. You don't see the meaning behind the hurt, but I know what you're really wearing. time you hear the truth. There's a gift inside of you. I can make the world change, 'cause you're so much more than useless. All you need to do is realize that you can change, 'cause you're so much better, and you need it more than ever. Open up your heart to the gift inside of you. Just take a step back so you can see how much of an impact your life could be. I can see past your wounds to a tiny spark that can light up a world so dark. The devil's deceiving, you must not believe him. And don't you dare forget this truth. There's a gift inside of you that can make the world change, 'cause you're so much more than useless. All you need to do is realize that you can change, 'cause you're so much better, and you need it more than ever. Open up your heart to the gift inside of you. The gift inside of you. Take a step you can't take back.
All right, there we go. So that is The Gift Inside of You. I'm going to play one more version of that for you in a little bit. That's the version on the bonus track version on the EP. Again, not on Spotify, but if you listen to the full EP here on YouTube, or if you go to my Bandcamp, you can find that bonus version there. And I don't know. I just thought it was a fun little treat to kind of add on there. I've heard bands do that kind of thing before, where they just have like a single acoustic guitar, and it's kind of not even like a high-quality recording. It's just kind of a scrappy recording of it, and I thought there was something cool about that. So I thought it just made for a good gift. And I thought it fit thematically with the EP. Oh man, Becky's saying YouTube is stopping me from commenting. Man, that's too bad. YouTube, stop it. Don't stop her from commenting. Let her comment. Thank you, Silas, saying great one. Thank you for the emojis, Becky. But yeah, I think just thematically it works well with the EP because it turns the question to the viewer. It's like, all right, well, your life has value. Your life has meaning. There's a gift inside of you. And the question is, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to, what choice are you going to make when life does start getting hard? And how are you going to move forward living your life? And so, yeah, I just thought it fit well. So guys, thank you so much. Again, I don't know. It's weird. In one sense, I know that these are songs, like I've released some of these. You guys have heard these a lot. And, but I don't know, something about just kind of packaging them together. It feels like a new project, even though, even though these songs have been out for a little while, just something about grouping them together. They just tell a nice cohesive story. And, this EP just means a lot to me. It's, I feel like if I were to meet somebody new and they found out, oh, you make music, like this is what I would want to point them to. I'd say, here's my EP, check it out. You know, like I feel like it just shows every side of me that you need to see. Even that raw guitar side, you know, it's like you've got the heavy track like Plastic Cup, and then you've got like this really raw acoustic track like The Gift Inside of You, and then you've got these emotional ballads like Love's Not Fair, but then you've got you know, you've got these very atmospheric tracks like Farewell to Fear, and then you've got a little bit of punk, you know, a little bit of kind of pop punk with what is it, Pull the Trigger, and you can hear kind of the musicianship, you know, some of the different arrangement elements in songs like A Mirror That Was Broken. And so I just feel like it's currently the best representation I have of me as an artist, and I think that's just why it I think that's just why it means a lot to me. And it might take some time before people, you know, anyone really notices and stuff, but I do hope if some people will check it out, and I do hope it kind of works as a good representation of who I am as an artist. But thank you guys for, you know, taking time to check it out, to listen to it, and celebrate it with me. And certainly, you know, if you ever got any friends who are looking for new music and they need a recommendation, you can just send them that EP and just say, well, check out this guy, see if you like his stuff. And, you know, if they like the EP, they'll probably like anything else that I ever come out with. So I'm going to play one more song for you, but we'll probably wrap it up in a moment here. It only happens to me on this stream because they probably have a time limit or something. I do think there's something weird where maybe there might be some kind of auto, like, stream limit thing. Like you have to wait a certain amount of time before, so that way you can't spam the chat. So I don't know. I might have to turn that off or something, you know. So I'm not sure why it does that. Very good way to do it, Quincy. Well, thank you. A lot of my songs kind of have a mix of styles. Well, I don't know if you saw it. So Silas, over on my rock and metal songwriting channel, I actually did a video today. Today was the last day of the live stream challenge. And the question for today was how to develop. Oh, you know what? It wasn't today. It was yesterday's, I think. Yeah, I think it was yesterday's. How do you find your own style in rock or metal? You know, how do you find your own style as an artist? And the truth is, it's a process. Like, you're probably not going to come right out of the gate knowing your style exactly. And I think that's why this EP means a lot to me, because even though I've been writing for years, I've written in different styles, and it's taken me a while to kind of find my sound and what I feel takes all the sounds that I like and combines them in a way that works well and doesn't feel like some kind of Frankenstein monster that I'm forcing it to be. That was probably the biggest thing I learned, is because I think the way I write for a band is different than how I write for myself. And that was probably the biggest challenge that I had to figure out. It took me some time to figure that out. But the kind of songs that I would write for my bandmates, I think the focus there was writing more so music that was fun to play. Like, yes, I was still trying to, you know, express myself, and I was trying to be emotional with the music, but it was more about the band experience and just having fun playing music together, and all of us being excited and hyped up about the music that we were creating. I think that was sort of the priority. But when you take the band away, that's not really what I look for by myself. By myself, I think I look for something that reflects me and reflects, I look for more of the emotion that I'm trying to express within a song. And I might be using different sounds and different styles and different techniques, but it's finding a way to use these sounds and express the emotion that I have. And it took me a while to kind of figure that out, and I'm still on that discovery process. So I think that's great, Silas, that you're experimenting with different styles, and the more you do, that's how you learn. You'll start to learn, and you'll start to find the sounds, and you'll develop kind of this toolkit of sounds that reflect you, and eventually you'll start writing stuff, and it starts working together, and it starts to sound pretty original. It starts to sound like, hey, this doesn't really sound like anything else. You know, this really just sounds like me. And so I think that's great, man. And that's really cool that, that you're collaborating with a friend and making music. Keep making music, man. Keep working on it. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for celebrating this release with me. Again, Hidden in the Wreckage. And if you can take anything away from it, just remember that, it's like, that's the question. What is hidden in the wreckage? And what's hidden in the wreckage is treasure, and it's you. No matter how messy life is, you are treasure. Your life has value. Your life has meaning. And just don't ever forget that. And I hope that maybe in some small way this EP can just remind you, on those hurtful days, those times you feel lonely or heartbroken, or you're not sure about your value as a person, or you feel afraid. I hope that maybe there's a song on here that just encourages you and uplifts your spirit and just reminds you what the truth is, because that's the main thing. Again, that lyric that Becky highlighted, the devil's a liar, don't listen to his words. And that's the constant battle that we face in life. The constant battle is that lying voice that wants to tell you that you're not valuable, that you should stay quiet, that you should just take the easy course, don't ruffle any feathers, stay, just the voice that wants to keep you afraid and wants to devalue you. That's the voice that you don't listen to. And the way you fight that voice is by listening to the voice of truth, which is the voice that says that there's a gift inside of you, that your life has purpose and meaning and value, and that your best days are yet to come. And so I hope this album just reminds you to listen to that truthful voice. All right, I'm going to play this song again, The Gift Inside of You, but I'm going to play the full band version. I got to get my guitar tuned real quick. Now again, this version, I still have to practice this a little bit. The guitar solo, I should have practiced it more, but it is what it is. It'll get better. I will say now that this EP is released, I actually am working on a new song. It's nowhere near being done yet. But I do hope to have more new music to share with you guys. I do hope to have another new song to perform with you. Again, I think I'm going to write at least one more, maybe even two more songs. I'd like to write at least two more songs, and then maybe I'll get back into production and releasing new songs. But right now it'd be nice to just write some new ones to be able to play for you guys, to share with you guys, and then eventually I'll release them. So that's kind of the case with this song. Right now I can only perform this song. I haven't released it yet, but eventually I'll get around to releasing it. But we're going to do this one, and then we'll wrap things up. I hope you like it. This is The Gift Inside of You.
You're getting closer to the edge and losing hope with every step. You don't see the meaning behind the hurt, but I know how much you're worth. The devil's a liar, don't listen to his words. And it's time you hear the truth. There's a gift inside of you that can make the world change. 'Cause you're so much more than useless. All you need to do is realize that you can change. 'Cause you're so much better, and you're needed more than ever. Open up your heart to the gift inside of you. Just take a step back so you can see how much of an impact your life could be. I can see past your wounds to a tiny spark that can light up a world so dark. The devil's deceiving, you must not believe him. And don't you dare forget this truth. There's a gift inside of you that can make the world change. 'Cause you're so much more than useless. All you need to do is realize that you can change. 'Cause you're so much better, and you need it more than ever. Open up your heart to the gift inside of you. is slipping from my hand. Don't take a step you can't take back, 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 back. You're getting closer to the edge. Your grip is slipping from my hand. Don't take a step you can't take back, 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 back. You're getting closer to the edge. Your grip is slipping from my hand. Don't take a step you can't take back.
Thank you. All right, there we go. That is The Gift Inside of You. I hope you all enjoyed that. And we're going to wrap things up with the chat and then put an end on this. But I appreciate you all hanging out with me. It's definitely getting a little late, but it's been good. I've enjoyed spending time with you all. Let's see here. Yeah, catching up. Yeah, I wish we had more time, but it's okay. Yep, no worries. Just do the best you can. Final song, that's right. The little bit of the stream has been great, and I love what you've been saying, Quincy. Well, thank you, Silas. The Bible says the devil is the father of lies. Yep, exactly. So that verse is a little bit of a reference there. Or that lyric is a little bit of a reference to that verse. So glad I decided to come to the stream. Now and then, if I'm not in a good mood, I think, am I just going to make everyone else watching feel bad, but feeling much better now? Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and don't ever listen to that voice. You know, the voice that's saying, "Oh, you're just gonna bring everyone down," because that's not true. You always lift my spirits when you come, and I know you lift the spirits of everyone else who comes too. I always enjoy seeing you in the chat. I always enjoy catching up with you. And so, that's definitely not a true thought there. And what I hope is, I hate it that sometimes when you come, you might not be feeling the best, but I hope that maybe you leave with your spirits lifted, with the burden a little bit lighter, and hopefully feeling a little bit better. And yes, did Silas go? It looks like he's around. Maybe he went for his run, but yeah, I'm glad you're feeling much better now. Thank you for the fire. Let's see here. Yeah, for some reason it said one watching. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes YouTube can be a little weird like that. Right here, haven't left. I ran earlier. Thank you for the fire, Silas. Here's our highlighted lyric. You're getting closer to the edge. Your grip is slipping from my hand. Don't take a step you can't take back. And again, that's where it kind of puts the question in your hands. You and to anyone listening, it's all right. Here, that's the question that we wrestle with. The question of, our purpose in life. And obviously, it's a very dramatic setting. And you could even go further with, with the meaning of that song. But even in a small sense, just that battle of like which voice are you going to listen to? The one that says, "Oh, you're just going to bring everyone's mood down," or the one that says, "No, you're going to have a good time and everyone's going to appreciate you being there." And every day we have questions like that, and we have to choose which voice are we going to listen to, and which one are we going to go after. And so, but the choice is up to you. Silas, you have to make your choices, and Becky, you have to make your choices, and Jack has to make his choices, and I have to make my choices. And that's the gift of life, and it's a great gift, but there's that responsibility that comes with it. And so I just hope to encourage you all to make good choices, to make choices that help you to live the most fulfilling life that you can, the life you were meant to live. I know you got to wrap things up, but I want to ask, what's your top 5 favorite styles of metal? It's a little tricky, but just off the top of my head, I know I like metalcore. I really like progressive metal. I like technical death metal. That'd be another one. We could probably throw maybe new metal in there or alternative metal, something like that. And let me think if I can think of one, if I can think of another style. I mean, you can get really in the weeds. I'll just pick one. I don't know if it's really metal, but like deathcore is pretty cool, like really heavy stuff. But that's what we'll go with for now. But if you've got your top 5, go ahead and share them, and I'll see what those are. Hope you have a great dinner, both of you. Thank you. And Becky, I hope you get some rest. I hope you get your appetite back, and that the weather's feeling better. And good. I'm glad you're feeling better on your end. Good. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. How many styles even are there? Well, there's a lot of subgenres too. So if you want to get like super in the weeds, you know, there's like, I mean, I can name a lot of styles that I don't really care, because there's also like black metal, there's doom metal, there's I don't know. There's a lot of subgenres, and I'm pretty sure, I know there's math rock, and so it wouldn't surprise me if there's like math metal, which is like very technical and very theory based and that kind of thing. And there's like power metal. There's your traditional heavy metal, you know, heavy, like actual heavy metal. I would put that in the category of bands like, you know, Black Sabbath or Metallica and that kind of thing. Like I would say that's actual. There's thrash metal. That's another one. So there are a lot of different styles of metal. But yeah, quite a few. But yeah, to someone who doesn't listen to metal, they'll be like, it's all the same. You know, it's just heavy with screaming. And if you say that's a good way to make any metalhead angry, because metalheads can be really particular about what style of metal they listen to. But I've definitely gotten to the point where I'm like, whatever, yeah, it's heavy and it's got screaming, you know. So, yeah, you know, I think it's almost easier to mention like what kind of bands you enjoy rather than like trying to be specific of what style of metal you like. That's why I basically say rock and metal. You know, it's rock, it's metal, it's electric guitar, it's heavy, sometimes it screams, sometimes it's emotional. You know, that's kind of the ballpark of what I do and what I like. Thank you so much for the stream, Quincy. I hope your cold goes away soon. I appreciate that. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful evening or morning, afternoon, night, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Until next time.